All right, thank you for the time that has been given to us. So before that, open this explanation with the Panganjali Umat Om Swastiastu. All right, today we are going to explain about the speech act. So let me introduce our group. So the first, my name is Seviarik Mardilayani, and my partner Wayan Wina Juniantari. So, and then this is about the table of contents of this material. The first about the definition of speak X, and then the second one is 3 facts of speech act, and then the third one condition for successful performance of speak X, and then the last is spec act classification. And then we are going to explain about the definition of speak X. As you see at the screen, speech is the usage of language to accomplish something, action, performance via utterance are called speech act. Apology, complaint, compliment, invitation, promise, and request. And then this is 3 facts of speak act. There are the fact one is like locutionary X, and then perlocutionary X, and then the last illocutionary X. Okay, we are going to explain the definition one by one. Okay, as you see at the screen, the first about the locutionary X is the basic act of speaking, which itself consists of 3 related subjects. They are the first phonic act of producing an utterance inscription, and then pathetic act of composing a particular linguistic, and then expression in a particular language, and the last one is a rhetoric act of contextualizing the utterance inscription. And then the second one is perlocutionary acts. A perlocutionary acts concern the effect on utterance might have on the address. Cross 2303 argue that perlocutionary acts are acts performed by means of language, using language as a tool. The elements which define the act are external to the locutionary act. And then the third one is illusionary acts. John Searle's theory of illusionary acts is a key component of his broader theory of speech act, which explores how language is used to perform various functions beyond conveying information. In Searle's framework, illusionary acts refer to the specific communicative intention or function behind an utterance, beyond its literal meaning. Okay, as you see at the screen, this is 3 facts of speech act. The first, illusionary acts, the production of a meaningful linguistic expression, and then illusionary acts, the action intended to be performed by a speaker in uttering a linguistic expression by virtue of the conventional force associated with it, either explicitly or implicitly. And then perlocutionary acts, the bringing about sequence of effect on the audience through the uttering of linguistic expression. And then such consequence or effect being special to the circumstance of the utterance. Okay, we are going to explain about the condition for successful performance of speak acts. First, Evan said at 2343 states that there are normally contextual conditions which must be fulfilled before a speech act can be said to have been properly performed. There are usually called happiness condition or felicity condition. Some of these are, of course, conditioned on any sort of linguistic communication, such as the fact that speaker and hearer understand one another, usually speak the same language, can hear one another, and so on. There are several conditions to be considered. Preparatory condition. Preparatory condition do not define the speech act, but are necessary in the sense that if they do not hold, the act has not been carried out. It is said to have misfired. In the case of declarative speech act, the person performing the act must have authority to do it and must do it in appropriate circumstance and with appropriate action. And then the sincerity condition. The, sin- the sincerity condition must be fulfilled. The person performing the act must have appropriate beliefs or feelings. For instance, in performing an act or asserting, the speaker must believe the proposition they are expressing. When taking someone, one out the feelings of gratitude when making a promise and one should sincerely intend to carry it out, and so on. If the sincerity conditions are not met, the act is actually performed, but there is said to be an abuse. And then the essential condition. Essential condition basically define the act being carried out. Thus, for a promise, the speaker must intend his utterance to put him under an obligation to carry out the act which corresponds to its proportional content. For a request, the speaker must intend that the utterance count as an attempt to get the hearer to do what is requested. For a statement, the hearer must intend that the utterance count as a guarantee of the truth of the statement. For a question, the hearer must intend that the utterance count as a attempt to elicit the appropriate answer from the hearer, and so on. If the essential conditions are not met, the act has not really been carried out. And then the content condition. Content condition is depending on the type illusionary point, IP used in an utterance. There might be different conditions on the illusionary content. For example, one cannot make promise, commissive regarding the past unless, of course, the speaking agent has a time machine available. I promised to start working at 9 a.m. in last week. Okay, so the next material will be explained with my partner. So Wina, time is yours.
Okay, thank you for the time that given to me, Sophie. So I will continue the materials. It's about the speech act classification. So as you can see in the screen, there are 7 speech act classification. The first one is assertive or representative. The second one is directive. The third one is predictive. The fourth one is commissive. The fifth one is expressive. The sixth one is declarative performative. And the last one is direct and indirect speech act. Okay, I will explain first about the assertive or representative. So the Cruz 2342 state that assertive permit the speaker to the truth of the expressed proposition, state, suggest, boast, complain, claim, report, and warn or that. So report assertive divided into 3. The first one is indirect assertive. Example, like I voted for Aronson in the last election. Most plastic are made from soybeans. And the third one is Cape Ann, like a house is a mile from the beach. And the second one is direct assertive. The example is, I fought for Ronson in the last election. The second one is, most plastic are made from soybean. And the last one is, Cape and like house is a mile from the beach. And the assertive verb, for example, like assertive verb followed by a full clause. Okay. The next one is directive. So, U 1996 described that directives are kind of speech act that speaker use to get someone else to do something. They express what the speaker want. They are comments, order, request, advice, and suggestion. It can be positive or negative. The first one is command. It is effective only if the speaker has some degree of control over the actions of the address. It can be produced with various degree of explicitness. They have the form you must, or they are imperative sentence. Example like, I, Herbie, order you to appear in court next Monday at 10. And for example, the second one is about request. It is an expression of what the speaker wants to address, to do, or refrain from doing something. An example is, I appeal to you to help as much as you can. And the third one, suggestion, they are the utterance that we make other persons to give our opinion as what they should or should not do. And the example is, I advise you to be prompt. I warn you not to be late. Okay, the next is about verdictive. So Cradlers 2001 state that verdictive are speech acts in which the speakers make an assessment or a judgment about X if another, usually the address. And this include ranking, assessing, appraising, condoning. Verdictive verbs include accuse, charge, excuse, thank, in the utterance frame, I, blah, 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 you, of, for, blah, blah, ing, and the others. Since these utterance present the speaker's assessment of the address, previous actions, or of what has befallen the address, they are retrospective. Example like, I accuse you of putting on airs. The second one, I congratulate you for performing so well. And the last one is, the major blamed the media for not accurately reporting his accomplishment. Okay, next slide is about the predictive utterance has the structure of predictive utterance, as you can see in the screen. And maybe you can take screen to learn it more. Okay, next slide is about commissive. So, Cruz 2000 state that commissive commit the speakers to some future actions like promise, vow, over, undertake, contract, and threaten. And Cradler 2001 defined that commissive utterance as speech acts that commit a speakers to a course of action. And a commissive predicate is one that can be used to commit oneself to some future action. Commissive predicates can be classified, for example, like the first one is response to directive. So positive response or agree, consent. And agree is more common. Negative response, refuse, decline. And refuse is stronger, decline more formal and more polite. And number B, self-motivated, like not respond to the directive, benefactive over volunteer. Volunteer suggests a more formal commitment, and malefactive, like threaten. And the last one is focused on speech act, like pledge, promise, swear. Promise is unmarked. A pledge is a solemn promise made in public. To swear is to take a semi-religious oath. Okay, and this one also the structures of commissive predicate. So you can take this text screen to learn it more. Okay, the next one is expressive. Cradler 2001 argues that expressive utterance are retrospective and speaker involved. The most common expressive verb are acknowledge, admit, confess, deny, and apologize. Example like I acknowledge that I did not do what I should have done. The second one is we admit that we were mistaken. And the last one is I apologize for having disturbed you. Okay, next one is about declarative or performative. So, Cradler, 2001, defined performative is kind of speech act that bring about the state of affair, births, blessing, peerings, baptisms, rats, marrying, declaring a mistrial. While you, 1996, argues that declarations are kind of speech act that change the word via the utterance. And Surley, in May 1993, state that the point of this case is to bring something about in the word, which have both a word-to-word and word-to-word direction of it, in which no physiological state is expressed, in which any proposition can occur. Example like excommunication. Okay, next slide is about declarative or performative. There are strong limitations on what can be performative utterance. For example, like the subject of the sentence must be I, or example, I declare this meeting is adjournment. The second one is the verb must be in present tense. Moreover, declarative are used in assertions. They serve to convey information. They are characterized by having truth condition. For example, like the dog ate the bone, John slept until 11 and missed his first two classes. And the last one, if I don't get this paper by 5, I lose a letter grade. And the example of declarative such as the first one is priest. I know, pronounce your husband and wife. Riri, you're out. And then jury for men is we find the defendant guilty. And the last one is I sentence you to 90 days in prison. And the last type is direct and indirect speech act. Direct speech is how can we recognize direct speech act when I see them? Sometimes the form of the sentence gives us a clue, and while something performative verbs will be present to help us identify the speech act being performed. We must be careful not to be dubbed by them. For example, like I advise you well, didn't I? He wants me not to drive drunk. And direct speech act is whenever there is direct relationship between a structure and a function. For example, like you wear a seat belt, declarative sentence. And do you wear a seat belt? Interrogative sentence. And wear a seat belt, imperative sentence. And direct speech. And the second one is about indirect speech. Indirect speech are characterized by the use of language to perform a speech act without actually using a form appropriate for that speech act. Then, indirect speech is the relationship between structure and function. While that might show fairly mysterious indirection speech act are actually extremely common. We all use the sense of type a day. For example, like, could you close the door? Please close the door. And then also example like a declarative used to make statement is a direct speech act. Declarative used to make a request in an indirect speech act. For example, like it's cold outside. I hardly tell you about the weather. Direct speech act. Okay, that's all about our material. The last, we will conclude our materials. So speech act refer to action performed via utterance. There are three components of speech act, namely locutionary act, perlocutionary act, and illocutionary act. And successful performance of speech act should fulfill four conditions, namely preparation, sincerity condition, essential and content condition. And there are 6 types of speech act, namely assertive, declarative, directive, verdictive, commissive, and expressive. Okay, maybe that's all about our materials. And if you have any question, please write your question down, and we will answer your question when we get a semantic and pragmatic course. And that's all about our material and our presentation. And we do apologize if there is any mistake when we explain our material. And I hope that this material can make you more understand about Speak Act. And see you on our course to do question and answer discussion. And because it starts with Panganjali Umat, so I will finish it with Paramasanti. Om Santi 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 Om. Thank you.